guys, my name's Sandy and I'm a naturopath and acupuncturist, and in this video I'm going to be making a bone broth soup. So bone broth soup is certainly on trend at the moment, and it definitely has some great benefits traditionally acknowledged. So in traditional Chinese medicine they use a silky chicken to make this kind of soup, which I've modified. So it actually has black skin, so that has a more blood building component to it. However, I've modified this version to make it something that Western patients, for example, for a Chinese medicine practitioner recommending this to our patients, are actually going to be able to do. You can find black silky chickens at most Chinese groceries. They're usually frozen and they have the neck attached, so they can look a little bit scary. And what I don't like about them is I don't particularly know anything about the farmer or where they're coming from and the sourcing, so I think it's always a better option to try and get good quality versions that are similar versus the traditional version. And so most people can go down to their organic butcher, get an organic carcass for a couple of dollars and make the soup out of that. As it doesn't have such a good blood building component as acknowledged as the traditional black skin chicken, we're going to add a couple of things to make it more blood building. So this one is something that you can use for fertility, postnatal. You can give it to children, you can give it to anyone with weak digestion, and it's going to be really supportive for them. You can also add extra things into it and modify it depending on the person's condition that you're trying to support. So in this soup we're going to be using jujube, which is red Chinese date. So it's a little dried date, and as you cook it, it softens up and becomes more moist. And this is very sweet, so tonifying for spleen and stomach in Chinese medicine, blood building, and also really good for calming the mind and the shen, as we speak about in Chinese medicine. So good for sleep as well as anxiety. The other herb I'm going to be adding is the Dong Gui, which is angelica root. Angelica root is pungent. You can smell the pungency and the bitterness, and slightly warm, just the root there, and it has a very strong flavor. I feel like the bitterness comes through a lot more in the flavor, so I don't add too much of this because it will overpower the soup otherwise. But it's really nice. And so this is known as female ginseng. It's super important for blood building. We use it for a lot of menstrual related conditions in Chinese medicine, and in naturopathic medicine it's probably a very well recognized herb that we use as well. Traditionally in the like black fertility, the black bantam, black silky skin fertility soup, they would use ginger and goji berry. So I'm going to throw some goji berries in there as well today, but I'm out of ginger. But ginger is going to be really good for helping to keep it a nice warm temperature, and also good for the digestion, and it's pungent, so it's really good to add the ginger, especially going into the colder months, to support the energy of the lung and the Wei Qi, our immune system in Chinese medicine. A couple of traditional things that you always need to add into soups and stocks is apple cider vinegar and some good quality salt. So I've got some pink Himalayan salt there. And before I get cooking, I just want to differentiate quickly between soup stock and bone broth soup. So soup stock is actually just using cooked bones, and you can throw in like some leftover vegetables, and usually just cooking that in water for maybe a couple hours on the stove, usually a bit thicker, and then you usually add that to food as a beautiful flavor. Versus bone broth, you're usually using not cooked bones, and you're cooking it from anywhere 6 to 8 to maybe 24, even 48 hours. So the cooking process is a lot longer. People that have a histamine problem or allergies or intolerances or are new to gut healing, I would probably opt for using a stock, because it is lower in histamine basically. So as you cook it longer, you release more minerals and amino acids from the bones, and they can actually react with some people. So starting off with a soup stock is a good idea, and then moving on to a bone broth that's not cooked for such a long period of time. And this is why I think it's a really good idea to make your own at home. It's super affordable, super easy. You just need to be able to let it sit for a good period of time. So let's get cracking. I'll show you this soup. So I've rinsed my chicken, I've placed it in 2 liters of water. I'm just adding in my red Chinese dates, so just 4 or 5. Then I'm breaking up the Dong Gui bark. Remember not to overdo it, just a couple of pieces of bark, because it has a very bitter and pungent flavor. And then you need to have about 2 heaped teaspoons of Himalayan salt. Throw that in. You can always add more later if you like a more salty flavor. And then we're going to use our apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is a really important ingredient as it helps to demineralize the bones, basically pulling the minerals out of the bones, getting them into your soup. So I just put about 2 tablespoons into the soup. And then I'm going to pop on the lid and let it cook on about medium or high in the slow cooker for 6 hours. Smells good. Okay, so the bone broth has cooked for about 6 hours. I've let it cool down and I've strained it out. And then this is the liquid part that we keep. And I've just placed it in a jar overnight just so you can kind of see what happens. The gelatinous texture that you get. I'm just going to grab a spoon. So all this here, you really want to encourage people to not discard. It's got all the great fat-soluble vitamins in it. It's got good minerals, great healing fats, collagen and everything like that. So when people are going to consume this, basically you just get them to take a cup of it and add it to their dishes. So they might add it to stir fries. They may make a soup out of it, like a chicken sweet corn soup. They might make a risotto, or you can just kind of add a little bit to your food to get that extra bit of nutrition in your food for gut healing and blood building purposes. So normally I would put it into some smaller like jam jars and that sort of stuff, and then you can keep it in the freezer. But I'm actually going to make a risotto out of this one tonight, so I'm probably going to use it all. But this is something that we can encourage patients to do quite regularly. It does not take long at all. It's very cost effective, and we did actually have some last night in a bowl of soup with some veggies, and it was really nice. And I reckon I probably could have put a little bit more of the Dong Gui in there because we couldn't taste it at all. Last time I definitely overdid the Dong Gui and the kids didn't really like the flavour. So you can really mix it up, make it versatile with what you're going to do. But there's so many options on how to utilise this really cost-effective, affordable, blood-building food that has been around for centuries. This is just the total modern take on it. Instead of using the black carcass, we're using or the black skin chicken. We're just using good quality organic bones, just so we can get that reassurance that we're not putting anything toxic into our body as well. And yeah, I really encourage you to start using this simple yet delicious and super healing food. And that's it. That's bone broth.